and good morning. It is April 24th, 2020, and this is my take on the daily news. Hope you're all doing well out there. Let's start with the numbers. 2.73 million people have been infected with the virus, according to the published numbers as of today, and that's worldwide, and 192,000 people have died of it worldwide. Here in the United States, 890,000 people have the virus or have had the virus, and that makes us the country that's number one in terms of having people infected by the virus. And believe it or not, since we last spoke, we have crossed the 50,000 death total. More than 50,000 Americans have died from the coronavirus in the last 6 weeks. It's just unbelievable the number of people who've been killed in a very short period of time. And some people have said those people were going to die anyway. They're almost all elderly, and it's absolutely correct. Some people will die. Okay, older people will die, but they're dying before their times, and it's an increase in the number of deaths. What we've noticed is that in places where the coronavirus is really impacting people and killing people, there's an increase in deaths of 25, 30, 35%. And as I talked about, I believe on Wednesday, 200% in New York. So a lot of people are suffering because of this thing. And that's in terms of medical health. The other part of this is economic health, and we'll get to that in just a moment. In the state of Texas, the latest numbers show that there's almost 22,000 people here in the state who have the virus, and 561 people have died. In the city of Abilene, there's 191 people who've been diagnosed with the virus. 3 people have died. When I last did this on Wednesday, since Wednesday, I believe there's been an increase in more than 40 cases here in the city of Abilene. Abilene has a higher per capita, meaning per person, number of cases than most large cities in the state. And basically only Amarillo and Lubbock have more cases per person than we have here in Abilene. So don't know why that is. Might be different testing, more testing. I don't know, but that's what's going on. Okay. Now, so many other things in the news. Where do I start with? By the way, all the concern earlier this week about Kim Jong-un seems to have disappeared. I don't know where he is or what he's doing, but nobody seems to be talking about it anymore. Have you heard about immunity passports? What is that? Well, some public health people are suggesting that what we do in the United States, and this is being done in other countries, is that somehow if we have had the disease, we would get some indication, a card, something on our phone, something that would say that we have the disease, have had the disease. And the fact that we're alive means that we've conquered it. So therefore, with that card or notice or whatever, we could go and resume normal life. We could go to restaurants, which would be filled with people with the same card. The waitstaff would all be the people with the same card. We could go to sporting events. The players, the audience would all have that card. We could go back to work. We could go back to school. Your teachers would be only those who have passed, have the card, the immunity passport. The other students would all be students who have passed, successfully passed the test. And this is one of the things that people are thinking about in terms of how do we deal with this virus? Because what we have in this country is most of us have not had the virus. A few of us had. Those who've had it, for the most part, are okay, but there is a certain percentage who have died because of it. But we still have this huge percentage of the country that has not had the virus. If they get sick in the same percentage as the few, That would just devastate our healthcare system. So the thinking is, once you've had the virus, you can return to normal life. Those who have not, they're stuck in lockdown. In essence, we'd have a two-tiered system. That's what some people are thinking. And there's all sorts of problems with it, because it's blatant discrimination. But in terms of what's going on, until we have a vaccine, and let's be honest, the vaccine probably won't come until 2021. Until we have a vaccine, what are we going to do? Because this virus is highly contagious and it can kill people. We'll see. Okay. By the way, just to make you feel better, the Department of Defense and our intelligence agencies are looking at the coronavirus and they're trying to figure out if there's any way to turn it into a weapon. Not necessarily that we would want to turn it into a weapon, but would one of our enemies possibly be interested in turning it into a weapon? And, there's been speculation that this originally was a weapon from a Chinese weapons lab. There's zero evidence of that. By all accounts, all the biology, the genome, the genetics of it, this is not a manufactured virus. It was found in nature. But there's all these stories that the Chinese were trying to weaponize it. Well, now the United States is looking at that too. And the belief is we're looking at that just as a way to attempt to understand what others might do. Okay. One of the interesting things, you might have heard that a lot of members of the military have been affected by this. USS Theodore Roosevelt, one of our aircraft carriers, basically is stuck in Guam with more than 600 members of its crew with the virus. One member died. What's interesting is that our nuclear forces, those military officers and enlisted people who are responsible for the maintenance, the care of our nuclear weapons, they have not had issues with the virus yet. And the reason for it is that those nuclear forces have always understood pandemics. And they've understood the possibility that a pandemic could come along and devastate our nuclear forces. So they have been preparing for this for generations. And that's simply part of their training. Now they actually have to put it in practice, and so far it seems to be working. Yesterday was another day where there was reporting of unemployment claims, and 4.4 million people last week filed unemployment claims. And what that works out to nationwide is 26.5 million people have filed for unemployment. And to give you an idea, the Great Recession, 12 years ago when it started, since that time, about 26 million jobs have been created. All of those jobs basically are now lost. Okay, and what this works out to, experts believe, is about a 16% unemployment rate. And if you recall, when we talked about unemployment at the beginning of the semester, the unemployment rate was 3.5%. And I said the economy is doing really well. Well, the economy has hit a brick wall. It is really in bad shape right now. And possibly 16.5 million Americans are out of jobs. We'll get those final numbers at the beginning of May, but it's important to note that this unemployment rate is the highest that the United States has experienced since the Great Depression in the 1930s. And there, the unemployment rate got up to more than 20%. And we're not there yet, but we're in bad straits here. Just in case you're wondering, the election is 192 days away, in case any of you are counting. Let's see, just a few other things. Yesterday, the House of Representatives passed the next stimulus plan. that the president had approved early. I mean, that the Senate had approved early. It goes to the president for his signature. He could sign it as early as today. And what we've got is another almost $500 billion to help people who are out of work. Money's going to go for more testing for the coronavirus. It's going to go specifically for hospital care, about $75 billion for hospitals. And then the bulk of it is going to go for loans for small businesses so that they have access to money, to capital, so that they can continue to pay their employees, pay rent, pay insurance, pay utilities, so they don't go bankrupt. And the whole idea is you keep giving them money until they can get back to work. So that passed the House yesterday. It passed the Senate earlier. It goes to the president. Once he signs it, those loans are supposed to be made available. Important to note that today is a big day. Some states are starting to go back to work. Georgia's the most famous one, where they're allowing various businesses, and really surprisingly, they're allowing tattoo parlors, they're allowing beauty shops and barber shops and gyms to go back to work. Public health experts are scared to death at what that's going to do. That very close contact in those places is going to simply start spreading the virus again. But the governors made that decision in Georgia. It's also taking place, I believe, in Tennessee, Oklahoma. I think in Florida, they're allowing some things. Next Monday, our governor is supposed to give guidance on when Texas is supposed to start to reopen. The sense is that the number of corona cases, while it continues to climb, is really peaking, starting to level off, especially in New York. In fact, in New York, it's starting to decline. In other places, it's starting to level off. Here in Texas, it's still increasing, but the rate is not as high as it has been before. So the sense is we're nearing the top. And once we start going on the backside of that curve, then the sense is that maybe we can start engaging in more activity. It'll be limited. We'll probably be limited in what we can do all the way through the summer. And of course, the public health experts are talking about it happening again in the fall. So we have no idea what's going to be happening at McMurray University in the fall for those of you who are interested. It might be we'll have in-person classes. It might be the dorms will be open. We'll have all our sports and other activities that we have. And it might be we're going to be online just as we are now. Nobody knows right now. Okay, I'm going to stop right there and hope everybody has a good weekend and take care of your assignments. And I'll be back on Monday.